your instructor. Down, up, down, up, down. Down, up, down, up, down, up. Come on, more energy. Down, up, down, up, down. Come on, one more time. Down, up, down, up, down, down.
What up, guys? This
Hey.
week we're going to be talking about Conan the Barbarian.
Crom!
Classic of 80s sword and sandal cinema.
Right.
So this film was written and directed, one of the co-writers was John Milius.
John Milius.
He was a very important figure in the new Hollywood era. He
He's
was
a man.
good friends with George Lucas, Spielberg, Coppola. He went to college with them. So it's hard to talk about a John Milius film without talking about his politics.
Sure.
And he referred to himself as a Zen art anarchist, which I'm not exactly sure how to take that. He was very much into the military. He was never able to go because of his asthma, but he loved the military, and you can see that in his films. I mean, he was one of the writers on Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
He also was an uncredited writer on Dirty Harry, another classic of the new Hollywood era. He was a writer on Jeremiah Johnson, classic western with Robert Redford, and allegedly he wrote the Quint's speech in the Indianapolis speech in Jaws, which is great speech.
Sometimes that sharky looks right into you, right into your eyes. You know the thing about a shark, he's got lifeless eyes, black eyes, like a doll's eyes.
He was a pretty prominent writer in the new Hollywood era. Let's talk about the history of the Conan property for a minute here.
Perfect, yeah.
So it started in the 30s as like Pulp Fiction novels by Robert E. Howard, and apparently they were pretty like spot on to what we saw. Like, there's lots of nudity, lots of violence,
Right.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Lots of sex. So and then who picked it up for comics? It was
Marvel. So Conan the Barbarian is actually part of the Marvel. I would say it's part of the Marvel universe. I think we'll see Conan show up in the next Guardians of the Galaxy trailer.
What if Conan's the villain of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2? The co-writer who actually wrote the first draft was Oliver Stone.
Yeah.
And Oliver Stone is another figure who is very well known for his controversial politics, and he's very interested in history as well. But you remember like hearing about the original draft of this, and like
Oh yeah.
he was drugged out, and apparently it involved a bunch of mutants and like all kinds of crazy stuff.
Honestly, is probably like the best. I mean, from so what like got Arnold like attached, and most of the people, the producer, the Italian guy, attached to this film.
De Laurentiis.
Yeah, De Laurentiis. What got them all attached was the ridiculousness of this script.
Yeah, so apparently he was really drugged out when he wrote the script and everything.
Which is the best way to write.
Right. So then Milius took over the project, and Milius said that the only thing that he really liked about the draft was that it influenced him to go as far as he could go with it.
Yeah.
So he realized, after reading Stone's draft, that he could pretty much do whatever he wanted with the property. Although apparently they took a lot of plot lines from the actual novels and comics and stuff. So we got to talk about Arnold. He was the star.
Oh, Arnold.
So this was one of his, this was like one of his first leading roles. I mean,
Right.
this is what skyrocketed him to action stardom.
He was actually attached to the film apparently like from the beginning.
Right.
Like this is like he was like the first big name to be attached to this.
De Laurentiis and another producer had seen Pumping Iron, and they said, this guy's got some charisma. He's got something. We got to put him in a movie.
Right.
And they just thought the Conan property was perfect for him.
Yeah. Like literally it was like written for Arnold, basically.
Yeah. So let's get into the plot then.
Great. Yeah. This sounds like
so the opening titles. The first thing it opens with a Nietzsche quote. And it's that which does not kill us makes us stronger. And you mentioned that you really like the opening, like the font of the title.
Oh, the font was like perfect. Like they talk a lot about like forged in steel.
Yeah.
And like the font was like forged in steel, and we see like the sword.
Yeah, the opening with the sword being made.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that brings me to the next thing I want to talk about was the score.
The score.
It's inconsistent at times. Like sometimes it has these really cheery cheery themes. But I thought there was some solid music.
Oh yeah, the themes were pretty good.
Yeah.
The composer, he seemed like a funny dude. We both watched the behind the scenes video.
It's on YouTube, by the way.
Yeah. And in this behind the scenes video, they're talking about he's talking about scoring this film, and he talked about how a lot of the stuff he basically kind of wrote just off the cuff type of thing. Like he wrote some themes down.
Well, he actually started working on it before they'd shot.
Yeah. Before they shot, he set down some 8 bars of like a melody.
Yeah.
And then for one instance, he had his daughter. He was playing the melody for what is known to be the orgy scene in this film, which is weird. I wonder how old his daughter was because they were going over recorders in school.
Right.
And she comes in with this recorder and plays like a counter melody to his, and he's like, brilliant. And so he writes it into the score. While they're watching the orgy scene and they're doing the actual score in the room, he brings his daughter in and is like, all right, what do you think? What do you think? Huh? We added your little thing to the score. And she just looks at him and goes, no, that's not right. And I thought that was hilarious. But for the battle scene, he said that he had this nightmare where his daughter and his wife got kidnapped and tortured and murdered, and so then that inspired him to write this particular score. And it just blew my mind. He just very off the cuff, very kind of almost last minute, but it was still planned out. It was almost like controlled chaos.
Yeah.
That's the best way to describe, well, most of the things in this movie, but in particular the score.
Right. So we get that visual epilogue, which is pretty cool. I thought it was pretty cool, interesting way to open the film.
Yeah.
And then we get the introduction to the Riddle of Steel.
No one in this world can you trust. Not men, not women, not beasts. This you can trust.
So then there's this crazy scene where Thulsa Doom and all his
Thulsa
men,
Doom,
who's played by James Earl Jones, by the way.
Yeah,
voice of Darth Vader.
And in case you couldn't tell, he's the bad guy.
Him and his gang come in and they just murder all of Conan's people.
Just straight up chaos. They just completely destroy this village. They decapitate women.
Lots of decapitations in this movie.
Lots of that. Lots of taking the heads off of people.
Yeah.
And they just they're killing a bunch of people, and the whole village just kind of dies. And then I don't even remember I think it was just a cold cut, which is very weird for this movie, and we'll get into that later. But it was just a cold cut for some reason they just let the mother of Conan, just kind of stand there with the sword, pointing.
The sword that they were forging in the opening titles, by the way.
The dude who takes off the helmet.
His henchman.
Is his henchman,
yeah.
Who I referred to from then on as Hulk Hogan.
He was actually an NFL player.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's an NFL player. Huge dude, but he's got the straight up stash and mullet, exactly like Hulk Hogan. He actually kind of talks like him too, in the way his speech patterns went. But he takes his helmet off. It's a big reveal, and it was kind of underwhelming. And then James Earl Jones takes his helmet off, and we're just oh no, here we go. I expect them to break into this punk rock band song or something like that.
Yeah, hair metal.
Right. They look like a metal band.
In ancient times, hundreds of years before the dawn of history, lived an ancient race of people, the Druids.
After his mother's beheaded, he's taken captive and he's attached to the Wheel of Pain. So they take all these children, attach them to the Wheel of Pain, and we see this nice, transition to going from boy to man.
Yeah, I love the way that they kind of ramped it up, because he's a kid. They show a little bit of his backstory, and they throw him on the Wheel of Pain, and boom, 20 years later,
now he's a barbarian.
He's this ripped Austrian governor, and he just ready to go, but he's still on the Wheel of Pain.
In the behind the scenes, apparently they had to make it serve a purpose, or the production designer wanted it to serve some sort of purpose.
Yeah.
But Milius just wanted it to be this torture thing for the slaves, basically.
Yeah.
And the important thing about this is that Conan is the only one that survives. All the other children, they die over the years. And Conan
so he has to push him himself.
Yeah.
Oh, and my favorite from the behind the scenes thing was basically he was pushing it, but the way that they had built it, they had so well balanced this wheel that he
people had to push it on the other side.
Yeah, people had to push it on the other side. But the first take, Arnold pushed it real hard, and the wheel swung around and knocked him on the back of the head. There was a lot of injuries in this.
So let's talk a bit about Arnold's performance. So his grunts throughout the film.
Oh yeah.
Once he starts grunting, man, it never lets up.
Oh yeah.
Also, then we got to get to his first lines.
Right, yeah. Of course.
So what is best in life, Tyler?
Well, to crush enemies, to see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentations of their women.
Those are his actual first lines.
First lines. In the entire... We haven't heard a single word out of the child actor or Arnold at this point, and he says... that ridiculous line. I as soon as he said lamentations of their women, I lost it.
This is when he becomes a gladiator, and he's fighting in these combats.
Right. For some reason, like after 20 years of getting this dude ripped.
Yeah, they sell him to some guy.
Yeah, and he becomes essentially a cockfighter. I wouldn't. He says
He's a gladiator.
No,
he's a gladiator.
He says gladiator, but no. They don't give him. Yeah, they give him weapons. Yeah, sure, but they put him in like this well, basically.
Yeah.
And they throw him in with. One of the two black dudes in this movie.
The one with the sharp teeth?
Right, the one with the sharp teeth. And sharp teeth becomes a theme in this for some reason. And like... He kills him, and then he kills someone else, and then he kills someone else, and they just keep fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting.
We get this montage of him rising up in the ranks.
Right, he's almost got the, and then like in between, he's all the voiceover explains how he was given the opportunity to be able to read and literature.
He read philosophy.
But like during this voiceover, we see his like little cave like jail cell.
Yeah,
it looks something straight out of Flintstones. like the rocks were like super fake, and there's this perfect like oval opening in the beginning, or like in the thing where they put these bamboo shoots, and then they open them up and let in this woman. But before they let in the woman, they take off her shirt. First nipples, first boobs in the film.
Lots of boobs in this movie.
Lots of boobs. Which, to preface, like when you were talking about this earlier, I thought it was a kids movie because of the ridiculousness. I was like, oh, this is gonna be a fun little children's movie that this is gonna be a turtle man, but like with a sword and like in medieval times. No, don't.
Very violent.
Very violent.
Lots of
sex. Lots of blood. Lots of decapitations.
Gory.
Really gory, and then just straight up nudity, and also Arnold Schwarzenegger doesn't ever wear a shirt, I don't think.
So eventually he rises up through the ranks. He gets freed.
He gets freed,
but when I read about it, apparently what happened is they respected him so much that they just let him go.
See,
it kind of skims over that.
Just completely missed that.
It just kind of cuts to him being chased by dogs.
Right, chased by dogs, which apparently he was actually being chased by these dogs.
And he got bit by one of the dogs or something.
Yeah,
right?
there was this great shot. There was this great outtake where like he's like running and he doesn't actually like get his footing.
He misses the step. Yeah.
And like this dog runs up and just starts like biting on him, and we see this dude like flailing his arms, like running onto set. It was.
So then he falls down that cave. He gets the sword. He says, "Crom,
Crom."
He gets his sword and he goes off, and that's when he meets the witch, who tells him about the prophecy that he's gonna become a king.
The hot witch.
Yeah, and then he starts banging her.
He walks up, and so by the way, anytime that there's a bad guy in this movie, you're gonna know he's a bad guy because Arnold whoever it is draws their that's facing them draws their sword slowly, and the other person doesn't immediately tell them exactly their life story.
Right.
That's exactly how you tell who a bad... Like, James Earl Jones, he comes up, takes his helmet off, cuts his mom's head off. This chick, she comes to the door and just straight up is like, I can warm you up in my cabin. That's basically what she says.
Yeah.
And I don't think she tells them the prophecy until, I think, like...
While they're banging, I'm
during,
pretty sure.
During the coitus, During the coitus, in front of a fireplace, and it's, moody or whatever.
Yeah.
There's this very obvious lighting change.
Yeah.
Where the entire room turns blue. I don't understand it. It's fine. Whatever. He's still going,
still banging, yeah.
He doesn't stop. Yeah. And then she grows, like, the sharp teeth.
Yeah.
And she, like, starts attacking him, yeah.
And then
she's attacking him, like, I guess, like, her legs are still wrapped around him.
Yeah.
So you gotta think about this, like, Conan, he's screwing this girl, and then she starts attacking him, but he can't stop, and there's at least like 30 seconds where you're not sure if he's gonna like finish or not.
But then he like ends up like spinning and throwing her into the fire or whatever, and
and we see like this glow thing leave the tent, and I don't think it's ever addressed ever.
It's not. In a way, this movie's kind of like the Odyssey. He just kind of goes from place to place, meets people, and it's a trek,
Right, yeah, it's an Odyssey.
Speaking of, the next person he meets is
Subotai.
And it's played by Jerry Lopez, who was a surfer.
Lopez, yeah.
Friends of Milius, because Milius was a surfer back in the day.
Shaka bra.
And by the way, anytime Arnold meets somebody in this film, they either instantly become a friend, or they become a lover of it.
Right. But they don't become a friend until they come over to him and they're like, hey, I am this, and this.
Yeah.
So, like, Jerry Lopez, he walks up to Jerry Lopez, like, Arnold quickly, like, draws his sword. He's like, oh, no, I'm an archer and a thief.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, that's what threw me off. If you're a thief, like, why are you introducing yourself as a thief?
As a thief?
Wouldn't you just be like, I'm an archer?
Yeah.
And then Conan immediately is like, oh, okay.
Yeah, they just
yeah,
they're friends.
Like,
instantly.
they're like good buddies, Like, you might as well start playing the Andy Griffith theme song. Around like the different cities then.
Right, and this is when he punches a camel.
And this reminds me of this great scene in Far and Away where
his boy Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise, yeah. Tom Cruise, he's like this Irish immigrant, whatever. It's a long story, but like, he's trying to tame this horse, and Tom Cruise just like straight up punches a horse.
So Arnold's just like backing up. He's talking to Sabatoy. And then he just, like, he hears his camel behind him, and he just turns around and punches it. Cold cocks him. I guarantee that was Arnold's idea. He's like,
yeah.
What if I turn around and punch this camel?
And Milius was probably like, do it. Like, absolutely.
Some humane for animals.
Yeah, the humane
They were
society
very
or something.
angry about this.
Yeah.
And actually, they talk about it in the behind-the-scenes documentary because there's that scene towards the end where this horse falls up on, and it looks like it's, it's the spikes, the wooden
spikes. A lot of
spikes.
horses are falling, and the horse falls on like all these
wooden spikes.
sticks.
And John Milius pointed it out. He was like, well, did you see the stuntman fall first? And they were like, yeah. I was like, well, he didn't die, right? Because they're made out of rubber. He was just being a dick about it. Before we talk about the next scene, I want to talk about the transitions throughout, because I'm pretty sure it wipes the next scene.
It definitely
but there's
does.
lots of dissolves, and dissolves within the scene.
I just don't quite understand the timeline of this movie. It's weird because, normal movies, they just cut they're within the scene, and then they'll use a dissolve to transition time-wise.
Yeah.
Instead of their cuts, they put in dissolves.
Yeah.
And for their time transitions, they put in wipes.
So him and Sabatoy, they climb down in this pit, right? They're going to find Thulsa Doom. Arnold wants revenge against Thulsa Doom.
Thulsa Doom in the snake pillar because he heard bad things were happening.
Yeah, and apparently there's a jewel in there, which Sabatoy wants because he's a thief. And this is when they run. This is when they meet the love interest. It's a blonde lady. She's Milius referred to her as a vixen, a real life vixen.
Yes, and they the way that their relationship goes, basically, they meet, then they have some traditional. You're a terrible person, and then they're in love. Yeah, and then that's when you know for sure she's gonna die.
And this is when we see this giant mechanical snake. Which apparently they couldn't fit the whole thing in there, so they just had like the half of it. They
made it so big that they just literally couldn't fit it all in this room. I thought it looked weird. It was like, but it's still in this well, and the whole time there's a shirtless girl, again with the boobs.
They're gonna sacrifice her to the. Yeah. It's like this weird cult thing going on.
And then Conan
he fights the snake. And this isn't like really bloody, man. Like it's brutal. He sticks the sword through the bottom of the snake's head.
Jerry Lopez comes and he like shoots like 4 arrows into the head.
Yeah.
And apparently
it was actually Milius firing.
It was actually Milius firing these archers or firing these arrows because he was the best archer
on set.
Like he Swords and Daggers in frame. It's not a stunt double.
Right.
He's just holding the sword and then like just Milius just shooting some arrows.
And then they end up partying for a few weeks.
Yeah.
Because they got all the money they get a bunch of money or something.
Well, see, and that's what I never understood. They got the ruby. Yeah. But they never actually sold the ruby. But then they're shown to be completely rich.
Right.
Through this undescribed amount of time. It's either like a week.
Yeah.
Or it's like
months.
2 years.
Who knows? Years.
Literally.
Could be years.
Could be years.
So they're in love now. They love at first sight.
Right.
And there's this sex scene, and there's like 10 dissolves in this sex scene. I'm not even exaggerating.
Dissolve after, like there's more Arnold grunts and dissolves.
They get called to King Osric's.
Osric's, yeah.
He's played by Max von Sydow.
Bergman
Classic actor, man. Bergman films, he's a great guy. Why is he in this movie for this one scene? He hires Conan and his group to go find his daughter, who is part of the Cult of Doom.
Yeah, his daughter...
Children of Doom is what they call
His daughter has done what all of your guys' daughters do in college. They go off, and they all join cults. That's what they do.
They're basically hippies, though. I mean, like, there's that scene where they're walking in the field, and they're like the flower children. I mean,
A bunch of flower
yeah, Conan sets off on his own, like, he leaves his love interest. And this is when he meets the narrator, who's been narrating this whole film.
Yeah.
His character's name is Wizard. He's played by Mako, who actually did the voice of Aku in the Samurai Jack series. Apparently, the creator of Samurai Jack, he saw this film, and he loved Mako's voice, so he was like, I gotta have him play Aku. Yeah, and so then he ends up at their, like, big palace.
Right.
Then there's that strange scene where he runs into the priest, and the priest is, like, hitting on him.
Where do you think you're going, brother?
I'm afraid.
Afraid? To bear yourself? Why? You're so big and so well grown. You should be proud of your body.
Arnold plays along.
Yeah.
Without thinking, and Conan's not exactly the smartest guy ever.
No.
But for him to catch on immediately and be like, oh, I know how I'm going to get this dude.
They walk off to the side, and then Conan knocks him out, and somehow the priest robe fits him. Now he's sticking out like a sore thumb, but apparently this is like his disguise to get in.
But also, like, not only is the disguise, it'd be one thing if he had his disguise on and he kind of followed the lines, but every guard he runs into, like, trying to go up these steps, he, like, takes out this medallion.
He has to show them the medallion.
He's like, look at this. No one else is really showing them anything.
No.
So he's sick. Not only is he sticking out like a sore thumb, he's also taking out this, like, artifact for all he knows and, like, showing it to him. Like, look at this.
Yeah.
And most of the guards fall for it.
It's like a fake ID.
I am McLovin.
There's that scene where he's staring into the pool of water, and I think another priest comes up to him and goes, "What do you seek?" And Arnold just turns around and he goes,
Infinity.
What?
This is a random moment. So then he's sitting on, like, the staircase.
He's sitting on, actually, this pretty grandiose set that was actually pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it was very old Hollywood and how big this thing was.
It's epic in scope.
Yeah, I mean, it was huge. Apparently the production designer went out into the middle of the field, drew a circle with, like, some spray paint, threw down a flag, and was like, we're going to put it here. Right. And then they just built it. They didn't use any, like, schematics or anything. They're just like, oh, we'll put up some walls, and we'll, make this big grandiose set for no big reason.
And Conan's sitting there, he's completely ridiculous in these priest robes, and all the guards come up, they grab him, cuts, and now they're torturing him.
Yeah.
And this is when we get another introduction to Thulsa Doom. He's more mature now, though.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing, though. Now he's wearing kind of more elaborate clothing, which it says in the behind the scenes stuff. I think Milius says this. The reason that they chose James Earl Jones was because they could put blue contacts in his eyes, give him really weird hair, and then make the audience believe that he's some race.
Yeah, some prehistoric race that died out. Apparently,
like thousands of years
subtext
ago.
Apparently of the film is that he's the last of his race.
Right, it's some ancient wisdom-ridden race.
He's
By the way, James Earl Jones has this terrible straight hair.
So they decide as punishment they're going to crucify him on the Tree of Woe.
It's like a crucifixion, but backwards, according to John Milius.
Yeah.
And there's vultures picking at him, and then this vulture picks down kind of lower towards his chest. And he just bites into this vulture's neck, throws him to the ground, and is dead. Apparently, it was a real vulture.
Yeah.
They actually had they found a dead vulture.
Apparently, it was
that
dead.
that died of natural causes, and then they just decided, oh, it's a good idea, just bite into its neck, Arnold. It's fine. It probably one of those let me punch the camel bits.
Yeah.
It's like oh,
might have been Arnold's
vulture.
idea.
Yeah, Arnold saw this dead vulture on the side of the road. He's like, guys, I want to bite into its neck. He sees the surfer dude running over the sand dunes, literally running, and they're also running most of this movie too.
Oh, they're running a lot.
He just starts laughing maniacally, and this is when we get to the.
They take him back to the wizard.
Yeah.
And the love interest is like, you have to save him. And then there's this crazy spirit scene. So bizarre.
Yeah, they're swooping down. They're touching him or something.
They're trying to take his body apparently.
Right, yeah. Which I don't quite understand. He did so the wizard did this ritual.
He drew
a bunch of stuff on him to resurrect him, but he's doing it to summon these demons to but the demons are gonna steal his body?
Apparently they want the spirits to somehow help bring him back, but he mentions that the spirits in these dunes are dangerous spirits. So he was worried from the get-go about doing it. I don't know.
Over my head.
Yeah, it's just a really strange scene.
Right.
But of course Conan comes back and there's this cut and it cracked me up. So Conan's laying there, he's close to death, we think he's dead. Mm-hmm. He opens his eyes. His love interest is all excited, and then it cuts in. He's a warrior again. It's this exact shot.
Immediately.
He's on the beach, swinging the sword around, and he's a warrior again.
Yeah.
It was absolutely ridiculous.
He's on a beach, and he's just doing Like, he's having some fun.
Then they find out where apparently Thulsa Doom is. They find out where he is.
Thulsa Doom.
So they put on that war paint. Remember, they put on the war paint outside.
Right,
This is the Temple of Set, by the way.
Yeah.
Where the cannibalistic orgy is going on.
Yeah. So they walk in, and this is...
And they watch for a moment, by the way. It's really bizarre.
The surfer dude, stands there, and he says that he has a line that's kind of like, oh, wow, this must be what heaven's like. I was like... What? There's this orgy going around this pillar, and then there's Hulk Hogan's there.
Yeah, and there's this guy, he's spinning this cauldron, and there's all these hands in it.
Split hand soup.
Split hand soup, because it looks
like split pea soup.
Yeah, but with hands. This is where Thulsa Doom turns into a snake.
Thulsa Doom. Yeah, they literally they made this Jamesville jump, rubber mask, and then they just have this another mechanical snake.
Yeah.
Emerge from this mask.
Yeah.
And then it cuts. I love this. It just cuts right into the snake in the hood. The mask is gone. And it's just looking around.
They all just start murdering all these people having an orgy.
Right.
They just murder them all. This is when he fights the Hulk Hogan henchman and the other henchman.
Right. Yeah.
One of them has a mallet. It's not Hulk Hogan that has the mallet. It's the other guy.
There was mallets. I forgot about that.
They escape the Temple of Set. And they're riding off, right? And this is when Thulsa Doom comes out with the henchman that survived.
And he rubs his snake to get it nice and firm and long.
He makes a snake arrow.
Right.
And then he shoots the love interest. And this kills her.
Yeah, immediately. They don't ask the wizard again to resurrect her. She's just
dead. And then they do the Viking funeral.
Yeah.
Lighting her on fire.
Yeah.
So then Conan's pissed, man. He's pissed off. And he takes the princess that they saved, King Ostric's daughter. Mm-hmm. He takes her and he's going to use her as bait, right?
Yeah.
And this is when they have that scene where he's talking to Sabatoy again, and he has that hilarious monologue.
I remember days like this, when my father took me into the forest. And we ate wild blueberries. More than 20 years ago. I was just a boy of 4 or 5. The leaves were so dark and green then. The grass smelled sweet with the spring wind. Almost 20 years of pitiless combat. No rest, no sleep like other men. And yet the spring wind blows, Superdai. Have you ever felt such a wind?
Arnold's delivery throughout this whole film is just hysterical.
Oh, it's laughable at best, all of his lines.
And he doesn't have a lot of lines, but then occasionally they'll give him these long monologues. There's this 80s montage, cheesy 80s montage as they prepare for battle.
Yeah.
They set up all the traps.
They're sharpening sticks. They're putting them in the ground.
And then Arnold has his battle speech and he prays to Crom.
Crom!
Crom. I've never prayed you before. I have no tongue for it. No one, not even you, will remember if we were good men or bad. Why we fought or why we died. No. All that matters is that 2 stood against many. That's what's important. Valor pleases you, Crom. So grant me one request. Grant me revenge. And if you do not listen, then the hell with you.
But this is one of my favorite parts of the movie, honestly.
Yeah,
this is battle speech. It gets you hyped, man. It gets you ready for battle.
Right. It's still ridiculous, but it gets you hyped.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Yeah, it's laughable.
This whole movie's ridiculous.
Yeah. So there's this huge epic fight at the Stonehenge-like place, which is where they've been setting up the traps. Mm-hmm. He fights, he kills the Hulk Hogan character. He kills the other henchmen. They kill a bunch of people on horses.
Yeah.
It's 2 against many.
Right, and then 2 Crom.
So they fight all these people. Dune runs off, and then it cuts. It doesn't show, how he got into the temple again or any of this. But he just comes up behind Thulsa Doom, and he just murders him.
Right. He grabs his hair, and he, straight up, he doesn't just decapitate him.
Yeah.
He, decapitates him. He cuts a V out of his chest to basically pull his head up.
Yeah. And then he throws his head into the audience.
All of these cult, and we're talking, 3,000 cult members are standing there. And they're all like, what
do we do now?
What do we do? They're holding these candle things, and they're like, all right, and they just
start dropping
them
into the infinity pool. And then Arnold he sets the temple on fire, and that's the end of the movie.
And there's this big bulk of text where they were really excited to make a second one.
Yeah. Oh, they were setting up for a trilogy apparently.
And he's sitting there like a king.
Yeah.
In his full-on throne thing, and the narrator's talking about
the wizard.
The wizard. Yeah, the wizard, and he's not yelling anymore.
Before Lord of the Rings came out, like any fantasy movie that came out, they referenced Conan the Barbarian because it was very successful at the time.
Yeah.
And they were just like, we have to make a movie like Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah, because it was just so
It's kind
ridiculous.
of funny to watch it today though because it's pretty dated.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Overall, it's a fun time to watch the ridiculousness that ensues. It's not necessarily a great movie.
Oh, no. I would never say it's a great movie.
No.
I wouldn't even say it's a good movie. It's entertaining, though, I think.
It's still an enjoyable
It's a
watch.
cheesy 80s movie.
Right. It's kind of like, I mean, it's the same reason why we watch all these ridiculous, like, B horror films.
Yeah.
It's just, it's kind of funny.
It's a fun time, man.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, you can tell in all the interviews and
Yeah.
behind the scenes stuff that he just absolutely loved the idea of being Conan.
Yeah.
He clearly was just going gung-ho.
He was all in.
Oh, yeah.
He was all in.
Oh, yeah.
And it worked out for him. I mean,
it did.
This pretty much jump-started his career, for the most part.
Yeah,
and
it did.
The other thing that I think really works for the movie is just John Milius being at the helm, because his charm just kind of comes through the film. I mean, you just listen to interviews with the guy, and he loves making ridiculous pictures.
Right. He's not like, oh, I love the aesthetic of this shot because this means this. He's like, dude, and then I had him cut off his head. It was hilarious.
I thought it was cool. I wanted some more beheadings.
And then, like, the makeup team got out their gallons of blood, and I was like, yeah, get more.
So, you know, I'm not going to say I recommend it, but, you know, if you catch it on HBO or something, you know,
right.
maybe it's worth a watch.
If you're, like, walking down the street and you see a copy of Conan on the ground.
On VHS.
On VHS. You know, pick it up and you know, throw it away and then go find it on YouTube or something.
If you're a big Arnold fan, you have to see this.
Also, I mean, it's always great to add to your Marvel collection to go and watch this Marvel film about Conan the Barbarian.
Right.
You know, and the lamentations of their women.
Lamentations.
Crom.
Crom!
Crom!
All right. See you guys next week.
See ya.
Take it easy.